Well, hello, you guys. I'm Rick Dancer. Welcome to Get Real with Rick Dancer. You know, I think I need to start doing this computer. I feel like I look younger in this picture. And if you don't think so, go away. You don't belong here. Only people here that kiss my ass and make me feel good are supposed to be here. No, but this camera is better than the one on my other. I have a separate camera and I'm going, or maybe it's the lighting or something. I don't know, but I don't feel like an old man on there anymore. So, welcome to our show. We're glad to have you. I am in Portland at an Airbnb. You can see our bikes over here, and we're in this little place in Portland, and it's driving us crazy because we have now become Montanans, and I hate your traffic. I hate your traffic in Portland and Beaverton. It is horrible. I don't know how you people live like this. It's absolutely insanity. And it drives me crazy. You can't get anywhere. I can't even get to the gym down the street. That's like 5 miles away, and without getting it running into 400 traffic lights. It's you think you're going to get something done in a day, and you can't because you're driving around. My heart hurts for all of you who have to. And then I look down on the Sunset Highway, and I see car after car after car, and you wait like that. No wonder people are so angry. No wonder you think that Tina Kotek is going to save your ass. You need to turn on the radio and listen to something other than what's feeding you. But anyway, I'm glad to have you here. We live in such interesting times, and I love it. I mean, in the Bible, God says you created for such a time as this, and we really were. And I'm excited that He trusted us with this kind of time. And we've got a governor who right now is trying to get everybody focused on Trump invading Oregon and Portland. Because why? You need to critically think these things through. What is she doing? What she's doing is getting your attention off of the fact that she just passed the largest transportation tax in Oregon history. It's like billions of dollars. I can't remember, 4.5 billion. I've got somebody who can explain it because she knows numbers way better than I do. But anyway, you guys keep asking me, what do we have for an option? What's our option? What are we going to do? Well, tonight I'm going to show you one of your options. You're going to get to meet her again. And so we'll bring on Danielle Bethell. And here she is. How you doing?
Hi, I'm really good. It's nice to see you. By the way, you do look really great. Fabulous lighting.
Well, you got the sunlight over your head.
I'm trying to block it.
And you guys, just so you know, I mean, she's right across the street from the governor's office. She's not. This is not a restraining order thing. We don't need a restraining order against Danielle, but she just happens to be there because she's a a Marion County commissioner. So you're her peeps, man, and she understands things. What I love about Danielle, I met you at a party, and I loved because you know your shit, and you're really like you know where the money's hidden, and so. From a county commissioner standpoint, and you've been on the League of Oregon Cities, and so you really understand the state, which is more than I can say about, the last two governors, the Brown Kotek tag team. So tell people just, I guess, a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into some of this other stuff going on.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm actually currently sitting across from the state library, which is where the governor's office currently resides, because my office is actually 2 blocks from here. And I like to be a rule follower. And I had to rush out of my office from a meeting and get in my car and go around the block so I could pop on here and talk about my campaign. Because in Oregon, you can't be in your office, elected office, and talk about a candidacy because it's actually a violation. If you didn't know that, now you do.
Wait a minute. You mean you follow the rules?
I work really hard to know them, to follow them, yes.
And boy, maybe you should educate some of the other people who work in that building there.
Turns out I try really hard at that too. It's exhausting, very frustrating to go into the Capitol on a regular basis and talk to the people that are in it. So about me, I'm a 5th generation Oregonian. I was born in Lane County in Eugene, actually, the same hospital my mom was born in. And I'm married to an Oregonian. We live outside of the Salem area. We own almost 10 acres. I raise chickens. I have 3 kids, 2 granddaughters. I think I'm going to get some goats this weekend.
Oh, what? Okay, wait. What kind of goats are you looking at?
So I don't know. My husband, we have some pastures that need to be tended to. And so our neighbor is like, hey, I'm selling some goats. Do you want some? And he said,
Okay,
sure.
because I used to raise goats, and the best
Oh,
goats are Nubians. They're the ones with the big floppy ears.
they're so cute.
Oh my gosh. And now
They,
there's also boars. There's a boar goat that looks like they have the same kind of ears. So,
yep,
but they're like meat goats. Most people just raise those for meat. The
yep.
Nubians, you can actually milk and breed, and they're kind of like puppy dogs. They'll follow you around. We used to hike at the property we lived on, and then there was a big county park up there, and
Oh,
our goats would just follow us like that, and they'd be right behind you. The dog, the cat, the goats. We look like Dr. Doolittle. You'll love
I,
them. They're super fun animals. They're very social, but don't get just one. You
yeah.
have to get two. If you get one, they will escape. You could put them in a cellar and they will get out to get to you. But if they have two, if they have a friend, you'll be fine.
I have heard that they are mischievous animals, and we plan to get a few.
Well, don't
Uh,
get a boy. Don't get a male.
I was just going to say, we don't want to breed them, so we're looking for just females. And I learned the hard way during the 2020 wildfires. I oversaw the animal evacuation shelter for all of the Marion and Lynn County animals that came out of Santiam Canyon. And I said at the end of my service there, which was about 8 days, the one thing I know is that if you get into livestock, don't get anything that has things dangling in the back, because they're all assholes. I don't want any of that. So we're avoiding male breeds of all things.
So you'll do either wethers, which are the ones that have had, that they're
Yeah.
like a lot of the liberals that, they don't have any balls. And then I said that, she didn't. I would blame me. Danielle would never say something like that. Well, at least not on here. So why do you want to run for governor?
Yeah, that's a good question. I ask myself every day, why am I doing this? And I'll tell you, the root of the answer is that I don't want to be the governor, but I can be the governor, and I could do that job really well. As a county commissioner today, so I'm a commissioner in the 5th largest county in Oregon. We serve one of the most diverse populations in the state. We have a high poverty ratio here, and I'm a problem solver. I'm somebody that will come into the space, whatever that looks like, look around and collaborate for the solution. What we don't have in Oregon, and what we haven't had through my entire career, even before being a commissioner, is somebody in the governor's office that actually even understands how government works. I mean, it's basic civics if you think about it. And you're not going to go hire, like if you were the CEO of Intel, as an example, and you're going to retire, you're not going to go hire some guy that's been pumping gas to come run your multi-million-dollar organization. You're going to want to hire somebody that has a general idea of what you do and how to do it, and
Right.
hopefully have some ideas of their own to improve it. I'm not.
Don't you think, Danielle, that what's become the norm now in the governor's office, is, the chief of staff really runs the show. And
Yes.
so you've got figureheads like Tina Kotek. Kate Brown was notorious for this. They don't know what they're doing, and they
Yeah.
just have a chief of staff. I don't know much about them, so I can't say, but usually those chiefs of staff come from, a union like OEA or the AFL-CIO or something like that. So these are not people, these governors are not people really trained in how to run something,
Yeah,
you
well,
know?
what we've had is a series of people who have elevated their way into the legislature, which is a policy making body. It's a bunch of people who, in essence, should be listening to state agency directors and the governor and forming a solid budget with taxpayer dollars to produce the outcomes we as taxpayers want. Those people in the legislature have never run a government.
No.
In fact, most people go to the legislature, and then when they decide they're done, they retire in county commissioner seats because the wages for commissioners are higher than legislators. And they think it's not a working job, which if they're any good and they're real public servants, they'll find out that commissioners are real working positions, and that's the grassroots level of government that matters. I have been frustrated since before being a county commissioner. When I was on the school board down here, I was running a chamber of commerce, and I've been around the politics space of Oregon for over 20 years, being in and out of the legislature, talking about different policies, whether it's people with disabilities or education or small business, whether emergency services. And I always found it fascinating that when I walk in the building and talk to any of those 90 people, first of all, I'm already educating them again. Every time I sit down in one of the chairs, I have to give them an education as to what I do and why I'm doing it as a commissioner. And that's the same for the governor. Like, I worked with Governor Brown when she was the governor as a county commissioner. And last year in 2024, I was the president of the Association of Oregon Counties. I represented all commissioners across the state in the policy space through the legislature and working with the governor. In fact, I was just down in Klamath Falls last week, and one of the Republicans that I went to visit in one of the community meetings confronted me about a photo that he found online of me and Governor Kotek. And he was like, "Tell me about this." And I was like, "Okay, I'll tell you."
I'm not married to her.
Well, like, the reality is that it's my job to work with people in leadership. She's
Right.
elected in this state, and as a commissioner and as the former president of AOC, it's my duty to sit at a table with her and to see if I can negotiate and educate for outcomes that are needed in my community. I would repeat that over and over again if I had the opportunity, because I think the only way you learn is to be present. And as a governor, that's what I would want. I would want people to come to the table to collaborate, to educate, to convene, to do all the things that create balance in the space of politics in Oregon. Because what we do not have is balance. We have the opposite. Right. Representative Deal said this best during the legislative session earlier this year. We are in an upside down world, and I want to turn it right side up.
You know, when I met you, and you're quoting Ed Deal, and he is the real deal.
He is.
And I'm actually meeting with him on Friday. I'm driving up to Salem, and I'm gonna meet him at his office or something, just to chat with him. I'm also meeting with Betsy Johnson while I'm here, and all the cool. You know what I like about one of the things I like about you is you would be governor for everyone, not just what we've done in the last two cycles. More than that, actually, but the last two cycles are so obvious. Is we've just had governors for the Democrats. Right. What we need is somebody who's a Republican or a more conservative person who also can go in there, straighten out the bullshit, but also you represent. That's what I said when I ran for Secretary of State. I'm Secretary of State for everybody. So if I don't agree with you, and you're a very independent-minded person, and that's putting it.
I'm not apologizing for that either, by the way.
No, that's putting it mildly for my audience out there. Governors don't make laws. I mean, the lawmakers make the laws.
Right.
So let's talk real fast, because I'm getting comments on here already. You know what it is. Talk to people so they get your opinion on this transportation tax. 95% of Oregonians who commented are against it, and still the stack of paperwork was like, I can't even get it in my screen. It was so big.
Yeah.
And still they pass it, the Democrats, and and I hope people take them out at the next time they can run for office. Get the names of everybody, Republicans and Democrats, who voted for that thing, and you vote them out of there. But talk to people, give them your opinion, what you're thinking.
Well, I think it's bullshit. My opinion is it's bullshit. The fact that the governor shoved this through after being lied to as a resident of this state and an elected official in this state on their fake roadshow that they did in 2024. The transportation committee from the legislature said, we're going to listen to you. We're going to come all over Oregon. And they did. They wasted taxpayer dollars by going all over Oregon, and they hosted all these meetings with people from all walks of life, people who are pro-taxation, pro-clean energy only, and people who are like, hey, this system isn't balanced. You're not taking enough money from the clean energy cars, all the Teslas that drive around the world. You're not raising their fees and charging them a road tax because they don't pay fuel tax. They're not paying for the roads. How about we balance that?
How
Get
about
rid.
we don't give them a $7,500 rebate so they can buy their, their stupid Tesla or whatever it is. Do the and so here you have low income people who can't afford, or middle class people who can't afford to buy a Tesla. So we don't have access. Those people don't have access to the $7,500 rebate. So
Yeah.
all that stuff needs to go away to make it fair again.
Yeah. Well, we need a level playing field, which is what you're describing. And the
Yeah.
transportation package that the Democrats just passed is not a level playing field.
No.
In fact, I think some of the support for it's completely misguided, which is frustrating. I think that they manipulated some of the organizations that came out and said, hey, like, we need to have more revenue in our local communities to sustain transportation. And the governor and the Democrats manipulated and took advantage of those organizations, the League of Oregon Cities, the Association of Oregon Counties, mayors in cities across the state who said they were for it. Every jurisdiction in Oregon has an issue with their roads. Pick a freaking city and it has potholes. Like, I'm in Salem today, and if you go down by the waterfront or come down Trade, like, if you're driving a Prius with low air in your tires, like, you're going to bend a rim by hitting a pothole. It's totally unacceptable. And that's because the Oregon Department of Transportation for far too long has thought that they're more important than the local communities, cities, and counties. And they have overspent their share of transportation dollars on projects they haven't completed. And then they bloated the things. I mean, we could talk about the I-5 bridge up in Portland, or we could talk about the Moda Center project and how they just kept changing the plan over and over and over again. Like, talk about scope creep that is totally irresponsible.
So somebody wants to know, Danielle, I'm going to interrupt you there, but what transportation, what infrastructure projects do you support?
Like, in general?
Yeah.
All transportation projects, but I support it upon a scale. We have to live within our means. Every jurisdiction in the cities and counties across the state has to live within their means. Cities receive 20% of the gas tax, counties receive 30%, and ODOT receives 50%. All of that total is 100% of the gas tax, so what you pay at the pump. And each of our jurisdictions, I'll just talk about the 36 counties. We have to live within our 30% means. And then we have to beg the federal government for larger projects to invest in projects like highway type systems and bridges, and hope that the federal Department of Transportation will like bless us with dollars, because we also pay into that bucket of money federally. What I don't support is the state acting like we should be building these grandiose systems in Portland when everything else around them in the suburbs of Portland and in the neighborhoods of Portland, the streets are failing. Like, what are we talking about? And I know that this is an agenda, right? Like, I'm not naive enough to walk around and say, well, they're doing their best. No, that's bullshit. This is a driven agenda from the Democrat Party, where they believe that they're going to force people into transit systems that they have not planned for. We don't have planned communities in Oregon like they do in the Midwest. We don't have enough land, usable land, because of our UGB restrictions in Oregon to have planned communities. But if the Democrats had any level of intelligence whatsoever, in my opinion,
or integrity.
Integrity, but just common sense, they would review the land use issues that we have in the state. They would reformat the urban growth boundary, and they would give us more buildable land so that way we can have planned communities, so they can design 15-minute cities and cities built around transit systems that are really thriving. But we don't do that. We try to force a square peg into a round hole here, and we don't have the money for that, and also the intelligence, I think, in that party.
Well, what's so weird too is you're making people in Eastern Oregon and Central Oregon, people that don't use mass transit in Portland, and everybody has to pay for it because it's this pie in the sky dream. And for years they keep screaming about affordable housing. And I know in the Eugene area that the urban growth boundary has not been opened up for decades.
Right.
How do you, I mean, I'm not the brightest guy in the crayon box, but you know what I know is if you don't have enough land that's available to build houses on, the land that's available gets more expensive. So then
Yes.
you drive the price of a house up. So we are trying to, in the name of, I don't want a bunch of rural farmland eaten up either, but most people's homes are on what used to be rural farmland. So
Yeah.
you got to open up something so people can have a place to live in. And I think affordable housing is the biggest problem in the country.
Yeah,
And
but you
Coach keeps talking more and more about it and doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah, but you're talking about it from a lens like people like the Democrats want people to live in actual houses and not apartments and condos.
Right. Right.
The
They want it to
reality
be
is
Russia.
that, yeah, that the Liberal Party really wants to densify our communities and make people live kind of like they do over in Europe in these multi unit spaces where people are living on top of each other and they're all densified, which I think culturally, if it is historically there, great, I support it if that's what people want to move into. But to force it upon a community and a culture where that has not been the tradition seems really unfair and short-sighted. It seems like it's you know control, and
Well,
I don't
it's
support that.
right. It's like, we have the highway and we're going to take all you little people who don't know anything and we're going to make you. That's how I feel all the time about the super liberal Democrats. And it's been like that for ever since I was in the news business. It's always, well, it just, yeah, well, we're just going to do it anyways. They force it. And I remember going to city meetings and, one decision was made, and if that group of people didn't like it, they would hound the city council and the county commissioners to death until it got changed. They made a final decision, and then they would not live with that because they wanted to win. So let
Unless
me
it
go.
happens today, just so you know, like if people are bored, they can go back and watch the county commission meetings in the month of September for Marion County and watch that same thing happening. The Marion County Board of Commissioners filed a lawsuit against the governor and the federal attorney general on the sanctuary situation because
Yeah,
Marion County received 5 administrative subpoenas from the Department of Justice federally. They wanted information on 5 individuals who went through the criminal justice system here in Marion County for heinous crimes that are still living here in Marion County, and they're living here not legally. And under Oregon sanctuary law, if the county was to comply with those subpoenas, we would wreak serious harm from the governor or maybe the state attorney general. And we're out of compliance with federal law. If we comply with federal law, we're out of compliance with state law. So we're like in this gray area. So the commission sat down with our legal team and said, like, what do? We took an oath to uphold both the state and federal constitutions. And right now we're like, where do we go? And how do we not harm our public by making a decision that's right? And to be honest, the fact that these individuals who are not here legally are living here and taking money out of the public safety system because they're on parole, which is not cheap, harms the community as a whole. And
right.
there's victims in our communities that we have to take care of because of their actions. And the federal government wants to remove them from Marion County and Oregon. Well, we said, hey, somebody needs to tell us what to do because these 2 jurisdictions are fighting. And so we filed an action. It's called a declaratory action with the federal court explaining like, hey, we need some direction here. We need the court to decide, like, what do we do? Because these 2 entities are not getting along, and anybody can watch the news to see that. It's a really unfortunate space to be in as an elected official who took an oath. And my point, there are a lot of people that are grateful that we filed that lawsuit to get direction because there are people who have opinions about the sanctuary law on all sides of the aisles. But there's a body of people in Salem who want to force what they believe the intentions of the commission are out into the ether. And so they've been berating us on our public comment, coming in and calling us fascists and declaring all kinds of nonsense. And it's just
That's a
been
compliment anymore. You know what I mean? All the old terms that used to be terrible, I get called homophobe, racist, transphobe, Nazi, Hitler lover, all this kind of stuff. And to me, it's just like, I'm taking it as a compliment because those words have no meaning anymore. And most of the people that are calling people fascists don't even know what the hell a fascist is.
It's been an ongoing thing since I've gotten into the political space. I find it to be really unfortunate because,
It is.
I grew up as a kid with the phrase, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Literally today, the commission declared a proclamation making the week of October 19th the Hands and Words Are Not for Hurting week in Marion County, because Oregon has a movement called Hands and Words Are Not for Hurting, and it's produced by a woman that lives here in Marion County, here in Salem. For 28 years, she's been in local schools with a hand that has a heart drawn in it on posters that talks about violence with words and hands, and how to prevent domestic violence and other things. I invite people to go look it up and to really invest in it, because I think the world needs a little more love in it, because I'm really sick of all the hate. Like, it's just too much. It's just too much. It's unnecessary.
So tell me this. How do you I'm reading questions over here because
I
you
can't see any of those questions, so I don't know what they're saying.
no, because that's too small on your phone.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about the recall on Tina Kotek? The
I
effort underway.
I completely understand why people want to recall her. I do. I think she's been one of the biggest failures in state government in a long time, and I think that she hasn't performed well. She hasn't done what she said she would do, and I really wish that people would just spend that much energy behind electing a Republican to office. I get that, like, they feel like filing that recall makes a statement, and it does. It says, we are unhappy, we are tired of this situation, and you need to do better, and we think that we need to take you out of office. But if I'm just being honest, I don't know that the alternative, if the recall is successful, is even better, because he's just as ignorant and incompetent when it comes to running state government. And he ran a government, literally was running a government. He's running PERS into the ground and making us, waste all this money. So I understand the energy and the emotion behind it. I wish that we could rally this party and this group of people to just get across the finish line in November for Republicans and change the direction, instead of always being reactive instead of proactive.
Right. I'm really supportive of Bill and what he's doing, and I think there's some other things, and I think about him too, in the pipeline that could end up really having an impact on Tina Kotek's moving forward. But the thing I do like about it, and I do support about it myself, is just that it does get people going.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Now we're excited about something. We want to do it. And I hear what you're saying is, okay, so let's get excited. Let's recall her. Let's put that out there so people know you're unhappy with her. And let's say it's successful. Then what you have to do, because Tobias Reed will then come in as the new governor, he will be the incumbent. So you'll have another incumbent you have to fight, and incumbents are much more likely to win. So then what you have to do is you have to put that same effort, like you said, into getting you or some other Republican elected into that position against Tina Kotek, because that's going to be the harder job. And Oregon could have changed when Trump won the last time. Oregon could have turned much more purple if a bunch of lazy Republicans would have gotten off their big ass and gone and voted. But I think it was like 100. I don't remember their numbers, but there was tens of thousands of Republicans.
So, yeah, there's two data sets out there that shows that there is almost 200,000 registered Republicans not voting.
So they can't bitch. You can't bitch. If you're not participating, you can't bitch. So my hope is that this thing with Tina gets everybody mad and gets them up. And then they got to keep that steam, because if you just recall her and then don't go out and do anything like your civic responsibility, you're the problem,
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. I understand. I've met with a lot of the groups across the state. There's a few counties that have a prominent number of registered Republicans not voting, and I've gone to those counties to sit down with individuals that are representatives of those spaces to ask the why. Why aren't you voting? And
what do they say?
Well, I'll tell you. I mean, there's a pretty large population of veterans who are not voting, and I understand how they feel not seen loved, represented, supported. They come home from whatever service that they provided to this country and they get shit on.
Yeah.
The Department of Veterans Affairs is one of the worst run
Yeah.
organizations in the country. And then when you get to the state level, like, give me a break. It's an abysmal investment from the Oregon legislature into the Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs. And the way the federal government partners with the state agency is next to none. I mean, I have several veterans that work for me, and I often ask them questions, and I'm always surprised at their answers because we just don't show up for veterans. We do not actually say thank you with our actions enough. And they're let down. They are disappointed and frustrated. And that's a heavy blanket to bear when you could have lost your life for the people in your communities, in your neighborhoods, and they turned a blind eye. They feel like their vote doesn't count. And a part of that is because the Republican Party has done such a shitty job over the last several years explaining to people how things come together. What the Democrats do really well is they organize, and they
Yeah.
they
And
have a
they
plan,
stick together,
right?
And
Even if they disagree. Yeah.
what I learned in the Republican Party when I ran for Secretary of State is, it's like everybody has, instead of supporting people, you get everything you did, and I'm sure you're going to hear this, is you should have done this, or you should be doing this, or
Oh,
you need to do this. And it's like, what the hell are you doing? You
yep.
know? And it's like, so instead, just back them, go behind them and say, oh, well, you don't agree with me on this one position about kittens or voting in Oregon. And it's
Yeah.
like, because I didn't agree with that, then you go out and start slamming my name. And then there's people like Lars Larson, the radio guy. Don't say anything. I'll just take this one. I don't want you to be represented by that. But he slammed me the whole time. And then he ends up having to vote for me. And he and people like that were basically put Kate Brown in the seat. Now, I'm not saying he has to be like nice to me if he doesn't like me, but to completely stand behind people, that's what the Democrats do so well. And Republicans nitpick each other.
Yeah.
And that has to stop. The other thing I want to ask you, because these are coming on here,
Okay.
and Chris and E. Todd made some really good points. I think there's a ton of people out there who just don't, Chris Powers, don't trust the voting system. And I know vote by mail needs to be changed, but I think I'd love your opinion on this. My opinion is it's too soon. There's too many people that like it. Yes, it's a problem, but look what we did in this last election when, Democrats cheat and Trump still kicked ass, and so did most Republicans in other places. I think that's down the road. I know there's an effort. Ben Idle's doing that, and I support that too. But I think it's probably still too early because there's too many people doing that. But you can't if we can, if they cheat by 100,000 and we have 200,000 Republicans that aren't even voting, 200,000 people can sway that. You can start making some in-ground. I feel like people throw their hands up and go, what can we do? The voting by mail is here. Nothing's going to change till that changes. Well, no, nothing's going to change until Oregonians get involved. All of them.
That's right. Yeah, everybody needs to show up. They need to show up for themselves. They need to show up for their neighbor. So on the vote by mail thing, my position is do I think that there are areas that need to improve? Absolutely. So in my role as a county commissioner, I have a relationship with the clerk in Marion County, who is the elected official tasked with running the elections. But I write his budget. Me and my peers review and audit and go through the process of the clerk's office to feel good about the election that's hosted here in Marion County, as an example. And the thing that I have said to many people is this: I represent an elected body of Republicans. All of us are partisan position in our seat. Marion County has had a partisan body of Republicans for over 40 years. If the system is so rigged in my county, which is a purple county that has a large Democrat base, and the system is so corrupt, how is that true?
Right.
How is it true that in Douglas County, I think every elected official in at least the county and above are registered Republicans? So we can go across every county, and I could probably pick off different perspectives of opportunity that needs to be improved. Do I think that we need to look at the bigger counties, specifically Multnomah County and their system, and understand how their elections are run? Absolutely. Do I think that I trust that system 100%? No. I don't know that vote by mail so much in the ballot being mailed out and into the community is safe. We heard during the 2022 and 2023 outcome that there were people in this country illegally who are in our state who have been registered to vote. That's real. In Marion County, the largest DMV exists in Salem. Representative Deal, who's a very good friend of mine and happens to be my state rep, and I both went on a tour of that DMV, who had the most non-citizen registered voters in the state. Because I wanted to see first freaking hand how that happened. And I'll tell you how it happened. The Oregon Department of Transportation is supposed to be doing transportation, not elections. It was like an afterthought when they created Motor Voter, and they tasked the Department of Transportation through the DMV.
Governor Kate Brown pushed that through.
But she did that, and they didn't fund it properly. They didn't set up a structured, secure system. I mean, it is disappointing, might be the only word that comes to my mind that's not a curse word, that the way that system exists right now. When Ed and I walked through it, I mean, we had a bunch of high-level people from ODOT that were there. We had the branch manager from the DMV. We got to go behind the counter and see the database and what it looks like when somebody approaches the counter and the questions they're supposed to ask and how the system is set up. It is so archaic. It's almost like an analog system. It's not even digital. At the time, there were no safety features that we could identify to help the employee of the DMV have any level of checks and balances to that process. Now, since the identification of non-citizens being registered to vote has come about, the Department of Transportation, through the direction of the Secretary of State, has increased some security features and some of the computer programming features of DMV modules, but it's not clean enough. It's not good enough. No, it's not acceptable. It needs to be improved. And if we think that Motor Voter is the thing that gets people registered to vote, it should be the most secure, most supreme system we have in the state, and it's not.
You know what, to me, Danielle, is one thing I do laugh about is that, Brown and the Democrats pushed through Motor Voter, Voter Motor, whatever the hell it is. What it ended up doing was making non-affiliated voters the largest voting bloc of people in the state. So they're bigger now than the Democrats. They really took away their oomph. Now, the problem is most of those people don't care. They didn't want to register to vote, so they're just registered and they're not voting. Right. So if you could get those, obviously, and I'm sure you're looking at that with your campaign, is if you can somehow encourage those non-affiliated voters. You guys are the biggest. You're bigger than Republicans. You're bigger than the Democrats. I mean, I don't know what color you are, but whatever you are, that's what we are. That's what Oregon really is. It's not a red state or a blue state. It's a non-affiliated state.
Well, it's also true that a lot of people don't know that when they get unregistered from whatever their party of choice is and become an NAV, that they don't get to vote in the primary. The lack of awareness around election education and knowledge in this state is concerning to me. Since I have been in this space of running for election for an office, every year up leading up to the primary, I go out and do community education in whatever space will have me and talk about how you can share your voice. Even, I mean, I've had to tell numerous Democrats that when in the primary, when you get your ballot that has all the Democrats on it, if you don't like the candidate in the whatever section, you can write in the Republican or a third party. And people didn't know that. I mean, I have educated hundreds of people on that because they thought they had to just comply with whatever crap was sent to them in the mail on that piece of paper, because we don't educate people in this state on elections, and we don't do civics, really.
I think that's purposeful.
Of course it is.
They don't. You guys, what you guys have to understand as voters out there is the more you know, the more dangerous you are to the legislature. They don't want you to know how all this works or what's going on, because they know if they can just create, just like the governor's doing now, create a new storm. And everybody blames Trump for doing that all the time. Your governor does it just as much.
Yeah.
It's just create a new storm and get people off track. And so they're not paying attention.
Right.
And I think the good thing about where we are as a country right now is a lot of people are paying attention. Whether it's Charlie Kirk's death, whether it's Trump winning election, whether it's Trump coming in and finally doing things, people got to go, yo, you're such a suck up to Trump. I like the man because he actually does what he says. And I know he's not a fascist. I know he's not Hitler. Those are just lines come up with people who are afraid. They don't want to lose control. They don't want anything to change, because as he does what he does, you start listening to other people's conversations and you see that this is a huge mess.
Yeah, it's a big mess. I agree. Yeah.
So are you how does your therapist say you're crazy to run for governor? Or I mean, what do the numbers look like
I
for
should
them?
have a therapist. I don't, but I should. I don't know. I mean, I think people who have spent any level of time with me understand why I'm doing it. So, we didn't really get into the depths of like who I am and where I come from, but I grew up in really extreme poverty here in Salem. I was born in Eugene, as I said, but my mom had really serious mental health issues that took her through the journey of addiction, which she did eventually beat, and we were very proud of her. She passed away in 2014, and I have been able to navigate through some really just difficult things in life. I don't think I know. I have been given a gift from God to want to serve people around me, whoever it is. I didn't choose to be a politician. I didn't start out to run for office. It took me a long time to get my college degree. And I did get it in political science because I was working for the government. It was a means to an end, so I could provide more for my family. But it opened up my eyes through the process of that education about who makes the decisions that impact my life. And I felt so oppressed for so long because of the poverty and because of the circumstances that I was living around, that I wanted to take control of that. So I thought education was the way to do that. And I've been a small business owner. I owned my own company. I own a company today with my husband. We own very small plumbing company. I've run a chamber of commerce. I've worked in emergency services. I just feel prepared to show up and do the job, which is be the representative to make sure every person that lives in Oregon can do so in a healthy, safe environment. So they can go achieve the American dream and not have to worry about the freaking road turning into a pitfall that they're driving down, or someone trying to indoctrinate their child in the public school that they're sending them to, or whatever crazy thing that's been going on in this state for the last 10 years. I want to get away from that. Like I believe that government is the safety net service for Oregonians, and we are failing in this state at every freaking turn. We have no relationship with federal government, which is a disaster for this state, which has only got 4.2 million people in it. So we don't have a big bank account to draw from to do some of the really remarkable things we need to do. And we can't go achieve those things because we have no partners in this space. The governor's job is to figure out how to help us be the best we can be. And so far, all we've had in the last at least 12 years is people show up into that office with whatever agenda they had, just shove down my throat and tell me how to live. And I'm sick and tired of it. So yeah. I'm pissed off like everybody else. Pick an issue and I'll be mad about it because I am. But I'm also showing up to create a solution. I am not afraid to talk to the left. I'm not afraid to talk to the far right. I found it interesting recently that a female Republican who previously ran for office kind of considers herself, I think, an expert in the space of conservatism. And she posted out on her social media a clip of a news interview that I did on news radio down in the Roseburg area. And her post was, for all those that have been asking if Danielle is a conservative, here's your answer. Because I say in that news clip that I'm a moderate Republican, because I am. Yeah. I believe in balance. But you know what? I also believe that when you have a situation that you put yourself in that is in leadership, you represent the people around you, not just
Yep,
some.
all of
I,
them.
I will show up for everybody in front of me that needs a hand up and not a handout. And if you think you need a handout, I'm going to show you a path to stability so you could get your ass up yourself and figure it out, because that's what I had to do. Nobody did it for me. And I'm not
And you
afraid.
know, and you know it's possible. I mean, you've done it. You've
It's
been there.
possible. And you know what? I'm really proud of the fact that my husband and I have gotten ourselves out of generational poverty, and that we've been married almost 21 years. Like,
Well,
our parents
congratulations.
our parents divorced. We both lived through kind of the dysfunction of American society and have overcome it. I'm not bragging about that. I worked my ass off to get where I am, and I don't have to run for governor. I just want to serve you, literally you and your children and your new grandson. And I want their lives to be better. And I don't think that we've had anybody run for office in a long time, one that's been inspiring or that will work as hard as I am and will do to make Oregon better, because we can do it.
Well, what I like about you too is that you have the experience working in government. You're not a novice at this. And I could see you hiring a chief of staff that does what a chief of staff does, but you're going to be right there, not with an agenda, but with a plan. And
Yeah.
there's a
Well,
difference.
you
There's a
know,
difference. The other thing I like about you, it's my turn to get to,
okay.
to pump you up a little bit here. So just sit there and take it, lady. Um, I may be speaking to the next governor of Oregon, but I'm going to do it now while I can. um, is I feel like you, and I take this the right way. Um, there's a lot of people who want to be governor. There's very few who want to lead Oregon.
Yeah.
I think you're the person who wants to lead Oregon, and it just happens to be through the venue and the vehicle of being a governor. Because then that's a huge difference, because it's not it's a title, but you're using the title as a way to get into be able to do the things that you want to do for
Can I
Oregonians.
get
And I
in?
think you'd be fair. I think you'd be fair. I think you would, if I was a Democrat, which that's not going to happen in this lifetime anymore. I was a Democrat when I first registered to vote because my parents were, and then I moved to Eugene, and it was pretty obvious. I've never fit in, I've never gone along with the crowd, and I thought I think I'm going to be a Republican now, because that's a good way to not fit into Eugene. But I think I have a lot of good friends who are Democrats, and it really isn't a Democrat Republican issue. It's a leadership issue, and we've had horrible leadership. All people have to do is look at the last 40 years. However long, Vic Atiyeh in the 80s was our last governor who was a Republican, and he did a wonderful job of getting us out of that horrible recession in the 80s, and he never got much credit for it, but he was a damn good governor.
Yeah.
But
Well, I'll
since
tell you.
then, it's all been Democrats. And we've had some good Democrat governors too, and some good Democrat secretaries of state. But what's happened is those Democrats, like I can't even say the name because people hate Goldschmidt so much. Oh, there I said it. But those people were active today would probably sound more like Republicans than they do Democrats,
Yeah.
because the Democrat Party has gotten so far to the left of everything. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's okay. I appreciate the acknowledgement of just wanting to lead. It's true. In the county, I've had the privilege of being able to create real solutions for hard topics: homelessness, addiction, housing, all things that I have had interacted in my life. I've never had an addiction. I have experienced homelessness. I have experienced, inaffordable housing. I just, a couple weeks ago, I think this is important to say. I haven't said this anywhere else. Um, my husband and our family lost a family member about a month ago to addiction
Oh, I'm
in,
sorry.
in Portland. And he's somebody that was my husband's cousin that we took in like a younger brother and have helped for some time, just love him up. He's experienced really hardship throughout his life. And a couple of years ago, we flew him home from Hawaii, and he stayed with us, and we walked through. I don't, what was that?
Oh, it was a little ding on my computer.
Oh,
Somebody Okay.
Okay.
Keep
Um,
going. That's the that's the fairy princess who says she's awesome.
so we, in my position as a county commissioner, I know what exists in my county for resources, like umbrella, like over the top, can see to the bottom. And I was able to help him navigate those systems, get him into um, recovery housing, transitional housing, and sober. He was sober for almost 18 months. And I don't know what happened a month ago, but he had a job, he had a girlfriend, he was living happily. And I got a call literally in the middle of a board session a month ago, right as I was declaring September as Addiction Recovery Month, to tell me that he died the day before. I truly understand what it is to just be a person navigating the difficulties of this state. As a commissioner, I have had to be resourceful and creative to find dollars to partner with community-based organizations to solve the problems on my streets, because the state is failing, because the governor is incompetent at best, and her policy advisors, those are the people you're talking about, those chiefs of staff. She's got more policy advisors than I could count, and all of them are a specialty in some kind of policy, and none of them are helping me, County Commissioner Danielle Bethell, do my job. They sit in their ivory freaking tower behind me, and they read their emails and they come up with strategies and they have meetings, but they're not producing outcomes. The
Exactly.
number of people that are dying every day and failing out of their housing because the cost of living in rental spaces is too high is unacceptable. We can talk about all the bad policies that come out of the legislature all day. Like, I could literally be blue in the face and not be done. But the governor herself has been the worst leader I have seen in Oregon's history. And I cannot believe that people believe she's doing anything. She has wasted more taxpayer dollars by lying to people about these bullshit emergency orders that she called on housing and homelessness, and hasn't produced near enough. You know, the Oregon Republicans, I think it was the Senate Republicans, I think it was Senator Bonham that called her out earlier this year on the fact that she wasn't even meeting 50% of her housing targets. And she couldn't articulate why. And I actually like her housing liaison, her policy analyst that does housing. His name's Matt. He's a real thoughtful guy. But you know what they're not doing? They're not looking at land use. They're not actually fixing the freaking system that's the problem. You know, we need more units and different types of units. And then we need systems on an escalator of housing for people to navigate from street level to success. And I literally have lived that myself, from street level to cars to rooms to apartments. I now own a small farm. Like, I get it. And I want that for everybody, whatever that looks like for them. And I'm going to fight like hell for them to get it, either as a county commissioner or as Oregon's next governor, because I understand the systems from the inside out. And I can tell you with certainty, the fact that the state is the least likely to partner with local jurisdictions to achieve any kind of outcome is why we're in this situation. And I can fix that as the governor.
You know, because it's interesting too. They get themselves locked in to it in a pickle, as my mother used to say, because okay, we need more land use regulation. We need to lighten these up so we can put these kind of things in there. But then you're stuck because their virtue and their morality that they've come up with, their own morality, is to not do that. So they can't use that. So they're stuck. You come up with solutions, you come up with ideas, but you can't. You're going to bump into one of your other virtue. Oh, Danielle, you just left. Can you sign back on? She's not mad. She just
I'm back. I don't know
yeah.
what happened.
Look at I did that was not me. That was you. Okay. So anyway, you know, that was my point. So you wanted to say
Yeah.
something. We're running towards the end.
Yeah.
In fact, it doesn't probably really matter. But
Well, I just want to say one more thing to the audience that's paying attention, that your local government is the most important government in your life. Your cities and your counties are the people that are making decisions every day that literally impact your neighborhoods. And they need help from the state. The state of Oregon should be run from a bottom up perspective. The governor should be listening to city councilors, mayors, county commissioners about what's going on in the cities and counties across the state. And that's not happening. And because it's not happening, we're getting this one size fits all policy approach to outcomes, which, by the way, doesn't work. Whatever is going on in Lake County is not the same in Columbia County, and certainly not the same in Multnomah County. We need more diversity and flexibility in how systems are designed for outcomes to be achieved based on the culture and value of those communities. It can be done. And I can tell you, because I do it every day as a commissioner, I have 20 cities in my county, 20, most cities of any county in the state. Not only am I obligated, I want to work within the cultures of those communities to help them thrive. So I know it can be done. Like, pick a topic, let's debate it. I just want to go do the work.
Okay, sorry, I got another question for you.
Okay.
Because I'm reading people's comments, and
Oh,
what I love about my job is I'm their voice. So I'm just asking you questions that these people are
yeah.
asking. I'm going to take their information and write a question out of it. But so if you were governor and you had, let's say, 3/4 of the state wanted to change its border and become part of Idaho, and it wasn't because they've fallen out of love with Oregon. It's because for decades, no one in the governor's office has listened to them.
Yeah.
And then they invited Tina Kotek to come out and talk about it. The group's doing this. And county after county has voted, we want to talk about this. And
Yeah.
she doesn't even meet with them. What would you do differently?
Well, I'll tell you, because I met with People's Rights Oregon on this very topic earlier this summer, and my answer to this question was I would convene the conversation. At the end of the day, the governor doesn't have the authority to move the border. That's legislative action between Idaho, Oregon, and Congress. Like, it's a big act of God in order for that to
Yeah.
happen. But if people are so unhappy, they deserve to be heard. All of us, we should have been heard on the transportation package, just as a point of contention, but we should convene that conversation. And I would make legislators show up and listen to that across the state. Like, there's no harm in sitting at a table and listening and learning and then wanting to be solution oriented. I think that legislators who think that the rural parts of the state are just whiny and they don't, they'll get over it. They don't get it. They don't understand what it is to live in rural Oregon and the challenges that they have to overcome. And damn right, it's a choice that they choose to live there because it's beautiful. Like, pick a section of Oregon in the rural space. I want to live there too. I just think you convene the conversation and then you facilitate solutions to the problems and frustrations that they have. That's what a real leader does. Right. I don't have to agree with them to represent them, to acknowledge them.
I remember years ago doing an interview with a rancher in Rome, Oregon. And she said, Rick, they came out and told us we can't water our cattle out of the Owyhee River, which we've been doing for centuries. And she says, and they don't talk about all the man-made lakes that we put out into the desert, and the elk and other animals are drinking out of that as well as our cattle. And she goes, but they try to shut down the river, which they did. But she says, we went to Portland to fight this. And I stood on the banks of the Willamette River and looked at 30 miles of river each direction, encased in concrete and pollution, and thought to myself, and you're going to come out to my little area and tell me how to manage my land. Shame on you. And that's where, if people don't understand rural Oregon, that's where they're at. These people do know how to take, they may not be Earth First or whatever these dumbass groups. They are. They're environmentalists because they would never destroy their land. And those people have, just like timber bloggers and timber people, they've made them, villainize them to get their own selfish way. And they want to shut down the forest. They want to shut down the roadless areas. They want to shut down everything on federal land. So Oregonians who own that land can't go out and use it. That's their motivation. They don't give a shit about you or me. They just want to shut it down, and we're just in their way. Fuck them.
Yeah, and the worst part of all about that is that they are destroying all the species of those forests when they burn to the ground.
Yep.
Every time they don't manage it. Last week, I was down in Klamath Falls. I think I mentioned it earlier today, and I met with the Klamath Water Users Association. Oh my God. In fact, I was saying to Betsy, my campaign consultant, we should have filmed this director. Her name is Elizabeth, and she was amazing. We spent maybe an hour because I was just curious about the four parts of the Klamath River, the four areas of the dams that they broke through to let the water just naturally run, and the impacts on farming and irrigation and communities down there. I've heard this quite a bit from my colleague Commissioner DeGroot over the years, but I had never seen it, and I did not understand it to the level I understand it now. One of the biggest takeaways that I left with, aside from the image of how that water was constructed to flow all throughout that region down there, which is a very large land base. Now that the water is removed from the man-made system, the desert area where the water's gone, completely evaporated, the birds aren't migrating through anymore, and they're struggling with other species of wildlife that used to be thriving down there, because now the water is really restricted to one source of flow versus multiple source of flows through different irrigation channels.
Huh.
I would know this because I'm not a rancher and I don't live down there, but I would love it if people in Oregon would go and look up the Klamath Basin watershed in the Water Users Association down there, because they have a whole education on it. It is riveting, and it's kind of counter to what the environmentalists are saying, which I know is like duh, but like I said before, information is power, and I think that we can win against these environmentalists if we are all informed more and with depth against the arguments that they keep making. Because right now, not just rural Oregon is going to be suffering, urban areas of this state are going to be suffering if we keep going through this water control space that we're seeing from the Democrats, where they just keep trying to take control of water and tell us all what we can and can't do with it. All of our food sources are going to be struggling, and our livelihoods, as far as the way we know it today, are going to change. I don't think that's right.
So I guess sort of like the last question. So I know Kyle Dyke, I've had him on the show. He's running up from the
Okay.
Verboard area. He's running for governor. We still don't know about Christine Drazen.
Nope.
If she jumps in, what does that do to you?
Doesn't do anything to me. I mean, I think that while it makes the race more difficult and I have to go earn more votes, and I would be frustrated with her for her doing that, because I backed her very, very deeply and aggressively in 2022. And she's had plenty of time to make this decision. Her coming into the race now would be frustrating to me, and I would just have to work harder, but I'm not giving up. I believe that I'm in this space to do a lot of good, and I'm going to keep doing it until the end, no matter what the outcome is. Like, I'm in this to win it, and I'm in it to help you. So whatever, I'm doing it.
You got guts. I was
I
going to say.
want to be like, I have so many things to say, but I'm trying to be like, maybe there's
Well, no, but
children
that's what Kathy and I really liked about you when we met you at that event. Oh, and somebody came on here. I don't want other people to be distracted by this, but no, Betsy Schultz is her campaign manager, not Betsy Johnson. So there's more than one, but actually Betsy Schultz worked on Betsy Johnson's campaign, which was really, it was just the Betsy show. And I am proud to say that I was the first candidate that Betsy Schultz worked under, with, for, and we were like, you're welcome, Danielle, because we knew nothing. And she was super smart. But I mean, the fact that we did as well as we did is a testament to her and other people on my staff. But we were just ragtag, and it was very much like me.
Well, I'll tell you, I think that while I do think Betsy Schultz is brilliant, because she's the type of person in this political space I needed on my team, because she wasn't ever going to ask me to be different than who I am.
No.
I am anything but fake. I'm a very authentic, highly emotionally charged person that wants to show up for the greater good. And she loves everything about that and helps me navigate that, so that way people can hear me thoughtfully without going, what the hell just happened?
Right.
I feel called to do this work. I'm going to keep doing it in any space that will allow me to do it, because I know that the world can be better, and I want to help it be. So people like you are a blessing to me. I loved that I got to meet you and Kathy at that barbecue.
That's fun.
And,
Yeah.
and
Well,
I want to meet more people like you and in more Oregonians, frankly. Like I said earlier, there's only 4.2 million people in this state. Maybe I can meet them all in the next year.
well, the best advice I got was Phil Kiesling, a Democrat, Secretary of State back in the day. And when I was running for Secretary of State, I thought I knew Phil, and I thought I should go ask him. He's a Democrat. I was a Republican.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, I'm really happy to see you." And he told me, "Go talk to every." He had a lot of advice. 2 hours. Kate Brown never visited with him because he was blackballed by the Democrat Party because he actually was the last Secretary of State to redistrict Oregon fairly. When Bill Bradley came in, Bradbury came in, also a friend of mine. He screwed it up. He started the damage. And don't mean to speak ill of the dead, but that's his record. He screwed it up. And Phil Kiesling said, go to every elections clerk you can and ask them what to do. And I said, well, what do you mean? What question? He goes, no, just go ask them what to do. And that served me so well because when we were in a debate with Kate one time, I said, how many, she wanted to do same day voter registration. I said, there's places in Vail, Oregon, they don't get mail every day. So I said, and Vail is in Oregon. And everybody in the audience laughed. And then I said, how many elections clerk have you visited? 3, Multnomah, Washington, and Clackamas County. I said, I've been to 26 of the 36. So go out there, Danielle. And, you're way more, savvy at this than I am, but my advice is go meet those people out there in those little areas of Rome and French and go to the Diamond Hotel. There's a couple of women whose families owned it forever. They are so opinionated about stuff. Go to Burns, go to Gillum County, go find those places that everybody doesn't go to, and they'll give you the stories that you need to open the arms of Oregonians, because those are the salt of the earth, and they will, and you will have whatever happens. I mean, I will never just go. My wife and I, she laughs because it's like that was the best experience of my life, was going into those places and having those people just tell you the truth. They don't bullshit you. You know what I mean?
It's so true. Even in the Portland area, I was up in Portland 2 Saturdays ago with a friend just to go up and walk around and to be a part of the community. It's been a while since I've frequented Portland, pre-COVID actually, since I've gone up regularly. And if you ask, people will share. And I'm not afraid to ask. I was in the cutest little like knick-knack store that's downtown by Pioneer Square. And I asked the gal how long she'd worked there. She happened to be the owner of the store. I asked her why she owned it and how things were going. And she had a lot to share with me. And she was inspiring to me because she's had to overcome a lot to be a store owner in downtown Portland in the last 5 years. And I have hope for her. I have fear for her too, but I have hope for her. And I'll tell you, I've been in every county in this state more than once because I've had the privilege of leading counties. And it's important to be where people come from so you can understand them and to hear them. And I want the invitations. So to the audience that's paying attention, people can reach out on my website or send my team an email with an invite and host an activity at a coffee shop. And I'll do my very best to come.
Danielle, what is your email?
The email is team@DanielleBethellForGovernor.com, which can be found on my website, which is DanielleBethellForGovernor.com.
It's Danielle, Danielle.
Yeah.
And Bethel, Bethel.
2 L's, just like it is. Come on, man. It's on the bottom of my screen.
I'm not there. That's why I'm sitting here putting this in. And that's why I ask you, because I want to make sure it's right. Oh, yeah. Look, there it is right there. Yeah, of course. Let me be the first one to give you a raspberry.
I love it.
Future governor.
I'll take it.
Hold on. It's coming on there. You know what? Grant County's begging for you over here. So you might want to, Grant County folks, you better get a hold of Danielle and get her out there to Grant County. You show her what you're all about, although she knows because she's been with the Oregon League of Counties and all that stuff. So you don't need that, but yeah, it'll be fun. Danielle, thank you so much for coming on and just talking like a normal person, because you kind of, I hate to tell you, but you are.
I'm not mad at being normal. I work hard to be regular, but I haven't figured out what that is yet. So I'll just be normal until I can be regular.
Well, I think honestly, normal might be a stretch. You're just let's just you know what we should just say? You're real. Because I think that's what people are looking for in Oregon is real leadership. I would give this to Betsy. Real leadership, real person, real understanding, real life. Danielle Bethell.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Take it and run with it.
I will, sir. I appreciate you and your
I
audience.
appreciate you too. All right. See you later. Have a good night.
I,
Don't be careful when you leave, you know.
I know. She's never in her office. She doesn't work. She's not here.
yeah. She's off in some shopping spree in Astoria.
Probably ready to walk with Antifa again in downtown Portland, right?
Yeah. See you, girl. Good
Yeah.
talking to you. All right, you guys there. So you got to meet Danielle, and this is our second time having her on the show. We'll have her on a lot more. I have a lot of hope for Oregon when I meet people like Danielle. Like I said, my wife and I got to meet her in person, and I'd never met her before. We walked away with what I think she could really do it. But a lot of things can come up and happen. We'll see what happens. Christine Drazen is a wonderful person too, but we'll see what happens with all the stuff going on in the state. And you know, yeah, I have some inside information. I know other things as well, but I can't tell you that, or I would have to hunt you down and find you like a dog. I'm kidding. God, take that. You know what? Honestly, take it and make it a meme. I don't care. I'm so done with all that. But here's the thing. Oregon, I get people going, why do you talk about Oregon? You live in Montana now. I love Oregon. I'm from Oregon. I'm a 5th generation Oregonian, but I couldn't do it anymore. And I want nothing more than the best for you. I want to regret my decision for moving to Montana. And Danielle and her team could make me regret moving. That's my dream for you as Oregonians. You're amazing people. I mean, you really are, salt of the earth. Take me into Rome, Oregon, and I can walk into a diner and sit down with the next guy, and I've got a story. And ask a cowboy, how do I get out to see the Roman Colosseum out there in the middle of that private property? And he goes, I got a friend. That's Oregon. That's Oregon. So you still got that. And I'm going to give credit to one other person who just is, she's dead now. Bonnie Skigsgill, a female miner in Granite, Oregon. Took me 600 feet down into a mine. Then she said, I think we have some cave in, which I said, please do not say that to a novice in a mine. Scared the shit out of me. But she understood Oregon, and she said, Rick, what an Oregonian is a rugged individualist. And she told me the problem with that is we don't work well together because we think we know everything, but that's who we are. I think we can change. I think we can still be rugged individualists and enjoy the difference and the true human diversity, not based on our skin color, not based on our sexuality, our gender, or any other DEI bullshit you want to put in my face. We do it because that's what an Oregonian does. It's like, you just be you, You're independent and be who you are. So Democrats, either come aboard or get out of the way, because there's a new Oregon, and we are pioneers. I know you hate that word. And we are empire builders because they came out here and struggled to build an empire that you now make great. You're the beneficiary of those pioneers you criticize who came out here to make an empire, and you criticize them. If you had been on the wagon train on the Oregon Trail, you would have been the whiner that got to just outside of St. Louis and went, "Oh my God, the wagon wheels are so bumpy. No, I don't want to throw my stuff out. I'm taking everything with me." You would have never made it here. There's a new Oregon. We're tough, we're loving, we're firm, and we're independent. And we are on the rise. Good night.